episode of First Down by CoachTools. Today here with Coach Robinson from Roosevelt High School. Thanks for coming on, Coach.
You bet, man. Glad to be here. Thanks for bringing me on.
So Coach Robinson, he is the head football coach at Roosevelt High School down in Lubbock, Texas. They are a triple A, or excuse me, 3A Division II school. And Coach Robinson is in his first year. So to kick things off, Coach, can you just share with the audience a little bit about your career, how you ended up at Roosevelt High School, and maybe a little bit about your playing days?
You bet. Grew up in Spring, Texas, right outside of Houston. So I grew up in kind of a big city atmosphere. I went to 6A high school. Got lucky enough to get an opportunity to play football at Hardin-Simmons University in Abilene, Division III school. My freshman year, we have a varsity team and then a developmental squad team, and I was lucky enough to sneak onto the varsity team by becoming our long snapper. Got to be the starting long snapper for 4 years, played tight end a little bit. And then after I got done playing, what do you want to do with your life? And football is pretty much what I spent my entire life doing. So I wanted to be a coach. My brother's a coach. My father-in-law is a coach. And I knew very early in my life that's what I was going to do. So was a GA at Hardin-Simmons for a little bit, and then ended up getting my first job at Lubbock Coronado under Coach Seth Parr. Learned lots of great things from him. My brother got a head coaching job at Pampa, Texas. He kind of gave me my first opportunity to be a defensive coordinator. Had another chance to come back to Lubbock to be a defensive coordinator here at Roosevelt, and then opportunity just kind of fell into my lap when Coach Landers left, and 5 games in so far, so it's going pretty good.
Good. So what was that experience like coming from a coaching family?
It was really cool. So my brother's, he's I think 8 or 9 years older than me. So it was always kind of looking up to him. Watching him play in high school, and then he played at Trinity Valley Community College. So I watched him in college and watched him grow up through coaching. And then once I started coaching, first game I ever coached in Coronado was against my brother. He was at Estacado. So that was a pretty unique experience. My first game ever being against my brother, and then getting to coach with my brother. And then now both of us being the head coaches. It's pretty cool experience. And then my father-in-law was a head coach for a long time. He's won 7 state championships. It's cool to have that in our family, and all of us have something kind of that we each know the ins and outs of.
Definitely. And going back on that experience, like as a coordinator and a assistant coach, how has that helped you shape your head coaching experience so far?
Yeah, well, really the 2 places that I've gotten the majority of my things was Hardin-Simmons, where I played, and then coaching under Seth Parr at Coronado. A lot of the culture things, the how we do our week, how all that I got from Hardin-Simmons. Jesse Burles is the head coach there, and very, very family oriented, very brotherhood oriented, and got a lot of that from him. And then a lot of the schematics and things like that I say that defensively anyway, I get from Coach Parr. How do we do our walkthroughs? How do we do our film study? How do we do all that? I got from Coach Parr. He's now the head coach at Anna down in Dallas-Fort Worth area. But so it's kind of a cool mix. You get to be around all these different programs, and then whenever you become a head coach, you got to make it your own. You learned a lot of good stuff here to do. You learn stuff maybe I don't want to do this that we did there, and you kind of just pick and choose what you want to do, and you make it your own.
Yeah. So, you've obviously been around the game your whole life, and obviously played in college. So how has it been so far in your first year as a head coach? And what are some of the challenges that you've maybe faced so far that you didn't necessarily think were coming your way?
Yeah. As a position coach and as a coordinator, you really, position coach, you're worried about the linebackers. Coordinator, you're worried about the defense. And then you become a head coach, and I still call the defense. But I can't just worry about the defense. When we're on kickoff, I got to be locked in to kickoff. When we're on offense, do we need a timeout? Are we going to go for it? when it's 3rd and 7, every third down, I got to tell our offensive coordinator, all right, you got to get 3 yards, you got to get 2 yards, and we can go for it. Or, so I can't shut off and think about defense. You know what I mean? I have to think about the whole team, and I can't get caught up in just thinking about how we're going to stop these guys. It's how we're going to stop these guys. How's our special teams going to look? How's our offense going to look? What's our pregame going to look like? All these different things you really don't think about as a position coach and as a coordinator. Now it's all on you to make those decisions. So that's been a learning experience for sure. And always with that being a head coach, parents, we got a great group of parents here at Roosevelt, but just kind of making sure that no parent's going to come talk to the position coach. They're going to come talk to the head coach, so learning how to juggle. What I told a guy I was talking to the other day, focusing on football and dealing with everything else, not the flip side of that, where you're dealing with football and focusing on everything else. Make sure you're focusing on what's best for those kids, but you still have to deal with all these other things. So just kind of a juggling process and figuring out what's the most important thing. And still on top of that, how are you going to have time for your family at home? So
Yeah.
it's a juggling process, and I'm learning every day how to figure it out.
Yeah. And it's interesting coming from a different perspective, since on this podcast, I talk with so many experienced head coaches that have been there for 18, 20, 25 years. And the one thing that really resonated with me the other day on a conversation I had was that a coach told me that being a head coach is like being a CEO. You have to have your hand in every facet of the game. And you need to, and like you're saying, it's not just on the football side, it's about managing expectations with parents, with players, with your alumni. And I think for a lot of position coaches, and maybe even for younger guys like myself, we don't always realize that. And it's always interesting to hear perspectives from guys like yourself.
Absolutely. You always think what's best until you get put in that seat. You get put in that seat and you don't know what you're going to do till you're there.
Yeah. And so you've obviously had some success right away, being 4-1, and just came off a pretty big win at Sundown. So with that said, how, and maybe could you talk a little bit more about your schematics and maybe like your defensive philosophies, since you are more of like a defensive mind?
You bet. We run the 4-2. We call it a 4-2-5. It's a 4-4. Those kind of overhang guys. We count as linebackers. So, we got we're in a over front most of the time. Have a 3 and a 2-eye. Got 2 backers and 30s, and then we call them outside backers. Some guys call them safeties. But I put those 2 outside backers. I put the inside backers and the outside backers. They're with me in our position group. So those guys are really run first, and then we have our 3 secondary guys in the back, obviously. But at our level in football, you got to stop the run. That's kind of our philosophy on defense, is we're going to stop the run, and then we're going to contain the pass. So we've given up 100 yards once this year. Everything else has been under that. So we try to, I try to base everything off of where my inside backers are. Okay, my inside backers are kind of the base of our defense. They're the ones reading pullers. They're the ones filling the gaps. Everyone else kind of has a responsibility. My defensive ends, they're spill players. My outside backers, they're force players. My interior guys, you're A gap, B gap player. Just kind of fill all of that. And then I let my 2 inside backers, I let those guys play, so they're reading pullers. If it's zone, they got to recognize it's zone now. Okay, now I'm a gap player. So really my biggest deal to me is getting those inside backers to be really good. Everybody else kind of fits into a puzzle, if you will. So that's what we do right there. And then really we're one high in the coverage aspect of it. So we try to do cover 3, that's our base. We try to do man free. And then we have a quarters match that we do where our outside backers and our corners are playing quarters. And then we got that man free kind of look. So our cover 3, our quarters match, and our man free, it all looks exactly the same pre-snap. So really, you might think, hey, we're playing cover 3 the whole game, but if you really start watching, on third downs, we're playing more of a true cover 3. First and second down, we're more of a quarters match to stop the run, and then we'll get in our cover 1 situations for some change ups in there as well. So that's kind of our mentality right there. Is we're going to stop the run first, and we're going to contain the pass, have one high look, so you don't know, all right, if the safety's rolling or yada yada. We have one look, out there with our secondary, and then change up our fronts quite a bit. We'll go from a 3 in a 2-eye to 2-2s to head up 2s, slanting. So that's where we do most of our adjustments is with our front. But in the passing game, man, it's 3A football in Texas. So we want to make a 15, 16-year-old kid throw it to another 15, 16-year-old kid, and they got to throw it and catch it, and they got to do it again the next play, and again the next play, and again the next play. But you're not going to hand it off and run it off. So I promise you that. So that's kind of our mentality right there on defense.
Yeah. So down in Texas, do you guys see like what kind of offenses do you normally see?
We see a lot of spread,
Yeah.
2 back, tight end, sniffer, stuff like that. But still, at the end of the day, they run the ball at least 50% of the time, probably 60, 70% of the time, most of the teams. We got a couple teams in our district that do throw it a little bit. In those weeks we do some more 7-on-7 stuff and stay away from the team stuff. But for the most part, it's what we call the Hardin-Simmons, the smash mouth spread type stuff, where you're in the gun, but you got 1 or 2 tight ends and you're still trying to run the football. So we see that a lot. And I think that helps us out because we run the flex bone offensively. So you see the flex bone once a year. You know what I mean? So you got 4 days to prepare for it. So I think that's a huge advantage for us as to where defensively we're kind of seeing similar schemes all year long. So, I think that's why we get, we hit them offensively. We hit them for 3 yards, 4 yards, 2 yards, 3, 4, and then boom, 60 yards right there. So that's kind of our offensive and defensively. We want to run the football offensively. We want to stop the run defensively. So that's kind of our mentality as a team right there.
Yeah. Yeah. My coaches in high school, we always talked about just when you block and when you can tackle using the right fundamentals at the high school level, especially, you're going to be a good team.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that kind of resonates with me with what you were saying.
Yeah.
So on a whole program wide level, what are some of the cultural ideas that you try to instill in your players?
Yeah. The foundation of our program is grit, gratitude, relentless integrity, toughness. Okay. And all of our kids know exactly what grit means whenever we say that. We got our helmet, we got to post it all over the locker room. That's really the true backbone of this program. We're going to play with grit every single day. And when it comes to gratitude, we're going to go out and we're going to have a great attitude in everything we do. Relentless, we're going to freaking fly to the football, and we're going to come off the line and we're going to hit you in the mouth. We're going to play with relentless attack. Integrity, we're going to do things the right way no matter who's watching. Toughness, we're going to be the freaking toughest son of a guns out there. And, we might get hit in the mouth, but we're going to get up the next play and we're going to hit you right back. And eventually somebody's going to quit and it ain't going to be us. So that's kind of our mentality, that we put on stickers and put on helmets and all that. But where we get all that truly is going to be the weight room. We, even in season, we lift 3 days a week, true hard lifts. Like Saturday after we play, we're front squatting, we're hang cleaning. I think you win games in that weight room, especially at our level. We all got similar kids athletically. So what are you going to do to make your kids better than those other kids? Well, I think the one thing you can do is you can get them stronger. And if you're stronger, you're going to be faster. So if we can get a little bit faster, we can get a heck of a lot stronger. We're going to outlast them in the third, fourth quarter. And then in the playoffs, we're going to have less injuries because our kids are going to be lifting, have stronger ligaments, we do a lot of one leg stuff. So the weight room, our kids love the weight room. And our kids know if you're going to play football at Roosevelt, you're going to lift weights. And if not, you can go to PE or whatever. But if you're going to play football for us, you're going to freaking lift weights. And that's something we do. We lift 3 days a week in season. and we lift minimum of 4 days a week out of season. So just getting those kids tough and strong is kind of our mentality right there.
Yeah. Well, that comes from the D3 days, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
we do pretty much the same exact weight program that I did when I was in college. Obviously, you know, we can't do some of the things because we don't have some of the equipment, but a lot of the stuff I did at Hardin-Simmons is what I brought here to Roosevelt.
Yeah. So as kind of like our parting words here, Coach, what are some last words of advice you wanted to share with the audience?
You know, if you're wanting to be a head coach one day, the best way to do it is to work your tail off where you're at. You know, I remember early in my career, I always want to be a coordinator. I always want to be a head coach. And I was worried about all this stuff that I can't worry about. The best way to do it is to, you know, stick your feet in the ground and go to work where you're at. Coach your position as freaking hard as you can. If you're a coordinator, have the best dang defense or the best dang offense you can have, and really, really build relationships with your players. You know, if you can get a group of kids that love you and are going to play hard for you, doesn't really matter what kind of scheme you have. You know, so if you get those kids to love you and you truly love them, it's not a joke. It's not you're saying this to win games or anything like that. Truly invest in your kids, love your kids, and they're going to play their tails off for you. So if you do that, people notice it, you know, and you're going to get opportunities. So don't worry about the next one. Worry about the one you got, and make wherever you're at, make that your Notre Dame. You know, if I'm at Lubbock Roosevelt, I'm going to give those kids the best opportunity to play football in the state of Texas I can. And that's all I can do. That's all I want to do. You know, I want to be here for as long as possible. You know, I'm not worried about getting a 5A job, 6A job, something like that. I'm worried about getting these kids to be great young men. So one day they can be a great father, a great husband, and a great, you know, citizen in society. So if I do that, it doesn't matter where you're at, because you're helping develop young men into grown men, you know? So that's kind of just how I think you can grow in your career, is just working hard every day, coming to work, not worried about tomorrow, worried about today.
Yeah. And I talk a lot about this on these podcasts. Football, especially high school football, is the perfect microcosm for life, just because it's not always going to be like, your kids aren't always going to remember what do I do on outside zone or whatever, but they are going to remember, how do I learn a skill? And they're going to take that with them and apply it to other things in life. And, you know, that's what this profession is all about, is, like you were saying, helping young kids, helping student athletes turn into grown men and contributing members of society. So that's what it's all about.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And on the flip side of that, I don't have to work a single day in my life.
Yeah.
You know, I have the greatest job in the world. Not a single day am I like, man, I have to go to work. Every single day I wake up and I'm like, heck yeah, what do we get to do today? You know, so it's a true blessing to get to do what we do.
Yes, sir. All right, Coach. Well, it was a pleasure talking with you today. And I know you're on a bye week, so best of luck next week.
You bet. Thank you, sir.